Thank you once again for joining my podcast, Proud of It podcast. Hope y'all had a good week. Everybody's here to listen and get some instruction on some things that we know was said for the end times. One of them being denying the power of God. And we're seeing it such a prevalency of people denying it. Those that believe and even non-believers. Non-believers, not so much of the problem, but when you have believers believing, not believing in the power of God, you definitely have a problem. And I see that so relevant in the churches today. Churches not wanting to believe all of the power, the true power of God. And many call God's power by many names. This day and age, they call it by karma. They call it bad luck. They call it coincidence. They call it many names except what it is. And what it is God. Jesus' power. It's His power, and it's a wonder-working power that people try to deny. And, it's one thing, like I said, for a non-believer to believe in this, but woe to the congregations out there that are calling God's power all these names except what it is. If you walk through life long enough, especially with the Spirit of God in you, you should not think like the world thinks. And this is a worldly type of thinking so that they don't have to believe in a God. When you hear people say, I have the worst luck. Luck is nothing more than denying God's power. If God favors you, if He has favor over you, that is what luck is. Luck is favor, and it's favor from God. That is the true power that they are denying, which is favoritism. And God has it. Every parent has it. Anybody that's lived long enough has favoritism within their life of some sorts. And people say, "Oh no, I don't," but yes, everyone does. Everyone does, and God does as well. And like I said, luck is not what you should be calling it. If you are a child of God, you should be calling it what it is, which is favor from God. You have favor from God, so God blesses you. It's a blessing. And you should be calling it as such. Many people out here, like I said, they're walking around calling and denying the power of God, which it said that this would happen in the last days. But you should not be saying it if you are a believer in Christ. And then woe to those that are telling people, to believe in these things. And when you say them, you cause people to fall, because then they start thinking it. They start thinking things are a coincidence. I just happened to see a gentleman or a woman that needed help, and it was just a coincidence I was there. No, it wasn't. It was God's power giving you, molding you where you needed to be. There's no coincidence in anything. Everything is orchestrated. Even this world is orchestrated by God's power. Where you're at right now is because God's power has put you there. And it's nothing of coincidence. There is no coincidence. And when you hear people saying it's a coincidence, no, that is not the correct word for that. There is no coincidence. It shouldn't be in your vocabulary. It should be, I was where God wanted me to be. God placed me there for a specific reason, and that's why I was there. And most of the time, it's to bless others. The coincidence is just another way God blesses others, and it could be that you're blessing a non-believer. It could be blessing a believer. So I mean, at the same time, this should be something that you take out of your vocabulary if you're a Christian. Quit using coincidence. It just denies the power of God in your life, and it denies others to know who's really working in your life. It allows you not to say God and put coincidence in his place. And a lot of people don't even know this, and they don't even think about it when they say it, and I understand that, but I'm giving you understanding to understand that these are things that people are doing that was said in the end times was happening. They said there would be deniers of power. They would deny his power. And many are denying it. Some intentionally and some unintentionally. But either way, you're still denying it. It matters more within the church than it does out. But at the same time, it still needs to be taught to both. Whether you accept it, that's up to you. The major things is that we need to understand that God is, his power is a part of him. And when we deny that, we're denying a part of Christ in us. We're denying that Christ is working in our life, that he's creating things for us and making ways for us and doing things for us. And believe me, he's doing everything for us that he can possibly do, and that goes for the believer and the non-believer. This is the thing. Even if you're a non-believer, God is still working in your life. And you know what? He's going to work in your life until you're dead. And whether you deny him what is rightfully his, that's up to you. But if you have accepted Christ, then you obviously should know that God is working in your life, and he's working in your life for the rest of your life. From when you was a sinner until you was not blind anymore, and you seen where the power was coming from, where you knew the power was coming from God. And the power comes from the Spirit of God, which lies in you, but also the Spirit of God favors some that are non-believers, but at the same time, that the favoritism that he has points people towards him because he wants those people to fall into the fold of his kingdom. What do we have? There's a lot of things that people are denying these days that need to be heard. When we see that our life is totally God's, totally for him, and it doesn't matter how hard you work against God, guess what? Just as he's blessing people, he's cursing people through his power too. He says, I will bring curses upon you and I'll bring blessings upon you. Those that deny his power are not blessed but cursed. Every time you speak these words that we've talked about, karma, bad luck, all these kind of things, and you deny his power, guess what? It's called, you are not giving the glory to God. He says, all glory is mine, all power is mine, but you're not giving him that. You're saying that it's all these other things besides God. And you're actually putting those things over God, and nothing comes over God. God is the highest. That's what he means by that. He is the highest. All things come from him. Power, glory, everything. Your life, your life force, whatever you want to call it, and some people call it energies. It's not an energy, it's a spirit. And he doesn't have energy, he has power. Power. Wonder-working power. And it continues that power all your life. And, the thing is a lot of people see the power, but they always deny it. They always deny it. They're deniers. And you know what? There was deniers even in Jesus' day. And there's deniers even in our day. The real thing is in Jesus' day, it was probably a lot easier to deny his power because they didn't understand his power. Now we have Jesus, and we're still seeing people denying his power. We've seen what the prophets wanted to see. We've seen the real power in a man that was of God. And we still are denying God. It doesn't make any sense because, all the people of the Old Testament knew a Messiah was coming to the world, knew that there was a man coming to save them from their sin, and that his power would never stop, that his reign, his kingship would never stop. It was a forever kingship. And like I said, you still have people today with the millions of Bibles that we have, billions of Bibles that's been sold, and we still have people trying to deny what God has put in our hearts to know, which is that he has the power to save us. He has the power to feed us. He has the power to give us what we need, sometimes even giving what we want. And sometimes giving us the power to pray, and giving us the power and the mind to understand these things, because many men have walked without knowing anything about what his power really meant. And now you have people that know what it means and still deny. So, woe to those that have caused this, and woe to those that are causing this in their children and in their families and even in their friends. Woe to those that deny him his full due. And, none of us are perfect. We always make mistakes, but at the end of the day, we should be trying to understand that his power is working through us and around us all day long. All day long. There's no energy. Like I said, most of this stuff comes from paganism, Satan, and things of that nature, because he wants to take the glory away from God, and he doesn't care how he does it. He don't care who he does it to. Who does it, just as long as they do it, because every time they do something that takes power away, it causes others to fall, and when others fall, it causes more and more to fall, and now you have a generation of kids and even adults that call things through all these other names except what they truly are, for they know not the truth, nor do they seek it, nor do they want it, so they deny it. They deny it. They love their pleasures. They love their darkness. They love sinning. People love to sin, and it causes them to have to deny what the truth is. To sin, you have to deny. To sin, you have to deny truth and accept a lie. And accepting the lie of all these coincidences happening, all these bad luck, all this karma that goes around. And see, the thing is karma is a false power, because everybody believes that karma works in the simple fashion is if you do something wrong, then wrong comes back on you. But guess what? God isn't like that. That's not God's character. And see, it gives a false character of what God is. Because see, some people look at karma as that being God, but that's not God, nor having any form, any condition, having any power Karma is not the power. And God is able to do whatever He wants to do. And sometimes when you think He's going to do bad to somebody who does bad, you're wrong. Because obviously Paul, who becomes, or Saul, that comes Paul, he was killing Christians. He was killing Christians, but guess what? God did nothing bad to him except give him everlasting life, plus a part in his church, his real church, to put people on the right road, what I would say the right road to Damascus, to go and find Jesus, to understand how He works in His power, and many other things. So these people out here that say karma is going to come back on you, don't believe them. Deny their power, deny what they're saying, and say, oh no, I have a wonder-working power in me that has forgiven me, and curse thee that says this to me, curse those. And I say that to Christians, we bless people, but we need to curse people too. We need to curse people and say, oh no, this curse goes back on you. If this is the power you believe in, then let it come back on you. Let it fall on you, not on me. And that's another thing is, when we're walking our walk and we're doing our things, is, we have been given the power to bless people and to curse people. And guess what? That's a great thing, because you know what? There's a lot of false Christianity out here that never talks about cursing. They only talk about blessing others. But you know what? Cursing others is a part of it too, because cursing others brings them to see that there is a God when their life falls apart because you've cursed it, and they see that, then they finally see the light. When you put a person in darkness, what are they looking for? Light. That people are, once they get in a very dark place, when they're in a very, very dark place, that's when they can find the light. And they only find it in a very dark place when they're cursed. You can't keep giving people light when they need darkness. You don't need to give people darkness unless they're needing light. Now, if they have light, they don't need to be in the darkness. Nor should they be if they have the light. And we're this generation is the end time generation. It is that generation rebels against everything. It's rebelled against the powers of God. It's rebelled against the holiness of God. God is a holy God, and He expects everyone to try to live a holy life. And the only way you can do that is by accepting the power of God, which people are denying. And there's so many deniers now, so many walking in the darkness, but not even really understanding that they have to have light. And Jesus said, I am the light of the world. I am the one that brings the light to you. For you are a man of darkness, for in you is nothing but darkness. Man and woman that do not know God, nothing in you but darkness. Nothing but darkness. You have to have a light, and the only light in this world is what Christ said. I am the light. I am the way. And whoever wants the light has to have to come to me to find it. You're not going to find it out there denying the power of God. You're not going to find it out there going with this generation that is already so fallen and so far in a dark place that none of them, they're all walking blindly. They're all walking blindly. And the only way to see that you need God in your life is to have the light and to have the power to see that light. You will never see Jesus as he truly is until you're given his power through his Spirit, through the Spirit of God, which is the lawyer for God pleading the case. And once you're able to see the case and all the power there in that case, you will never deny Christ. You should never deny Christ. But those that deny Christ are lost, or they have fallen, or they have stumbled in their faith, or they doubt their faith, and them things come in when you don't read the Word, when you lose sight of the Word, when you don't think the Word has the power in your life. See, there's a lot of people that look at that book and they're just like, it's just another book. But it's not another book. This book has life-giving power, everlasting life power. And you will never know it until you receive it, until you receive the message that is in that book. You know, I just read in 2 Kings where Josiah goes and finds, or he doesn't go, but he sends his people to go and bring all the, or break down all the idols that were inside the temple and bring all that stuff out. And guess what? They find the old book of the law. And Josiah is like, whoa. But see, the people in that day just seen it as an old dusty book sitting on the corner of a coffee table somewhere within the temple, and that it didn't have any power, and they were worshiping all these other gods. See, and that's what a lot of your lives are like. You're worshiping all these other gods, and you just think that old book that's got dust, 2 layers thick on top of your dresser or wherever it is, that it don't have the power to change your life, but it has all the power to change your life. It has all the power. It has all the power, all the faith, all the doubting, all the walking and stumbling, and all that. It can save you from all those things. But see, if you deny that power, if you don't have any faith in that power, and faith come by hearing the Word, but if you don't read the Word, there's no hearing of the Word. And guess what? You can't go to these churches today and hear the Word because they don't read the Word. The only word you hear is what comes out of a man's mouth. And what does God say? Every word that comes out of a man's mouth be a lie, but God's Word be the truth. And that's all it is. So if you really want to know who God is, if you really want to know the truth, if you really want to have the power of God, you have to be pretty indoctrinated with what the Word says. Because like I said, this world out here is worshiping, not only out here in this world, but in the churches themselves, they are worshiping other gods. They are speaking a different testimony. They're speaking a false testimony that is about prosperity, a prosperity gospel, which is a false testimony of the true power of God. God wants more for you than just prosperity. He wants more than just you having good luck. He wants you to have a real power, a real understanding of who He is and how He sees things and how He works, so that you're never blinded in a situation. You know exactly what to do in that situation. I mean, people don't even realize, I've had people ask me a question. If I was working at the workplace, or if I have a friend and we really like each other, but he has this or she has that, that boyfriend or that girlfriend, but I really want to do an immoral thing with him, should I? But, that's a selfish motive. It makes you, and it will cause you to lose both. It or cause you lose your friend, plus the girl, if it's a girlfriend and you're friends with her and you cause this atrocity, you're going to lose 2 friends. And what's the worth in that? For a selfish pleasure? So for one night of selfish pleasure? But that's where we are in this world. That's what people, and that's what your daughters and your sons are living in. A world where people are fallen and they commit very atrocious crimes against themselves, against their friends, against their family, and then it causes others to sin as well. Because they say, well, if she does it, then I can do it. But God said you cannot worship these detestable gods and this. And they brought their detestable gods here. We had God in our schools. We had God in our churches. We had God in our families. We had God in our lives, which is the main thing. But now we've allowed all these detestable people to come here, these heathen, no knowing of Christ, no understanding of Christ. And now they've come and denied His power and gave us a false doctrine with a false power that we're supposed to accept their gods and their realities of life. We're supposed to accept their idolatry. We're supposed to accept their sexual perversions. We've accepted everything except what our God says to accept and what He says to reject. We've rejected all He says in His word for another false word from people that don't even know truth, that don't have no truth in them, that are denying our God's power just so we can get along with people, just so we can feel good about us going out into this satanic world, this satanic culture, this satanic sexual perversions. And not only do we go out in it, we play in it. And then our lives are plagued. Then we bring a plague upon our life. We bring cancer into our life. We bring all these sexual STDs into your life because you wouldn't listen to your God. Now you're living with things that you can't even get rid of. You're destroying your life. I heard the other day, Paris Hilton it was something where I read it, I think on Yahoo or somewhere, where she said that her whole life has been changed because of one night of pleasure with a man. Now everybody in the world knows what knows about her sin. A great, atrocious sin has caused that girl many problems all of her days. She says she thinks about it every day. Could you imagine? There's many of your daughters right now that are going to cause themselves to have to think so shamefully of themselves all their days because of one act that they do. There was a girl a couple of years ago that killed herself because the simple fact is she did one time, she flashed some people on a internet site, and now her internet picture was put up all over the site, all over all these sexual perverted pornography sites, and a couple of and being told that if they didn't give her, if she didn't give them the money, that they were going to put it all over the world. And guess what? The girl finally killed herself because of it. And that's what's going to happen to your daughters out here, your sons out here, because you denied the power of God all their days. All their days that you could have told them the truth, you denied His power. You denied who God was. You said, I'm going to let my daughter and my son be whoever they want to be. But I'm going to tell you something. In the end, that doesn't compute to anything. You have to steer a car, don't you? You don't get in a car and just press the gas and hope for the best. What idiot would do that? What fool would do that? You know, I seen a thing the other day where a lady was going 80 miles per hour off of a ramp, off of an off ramp, went 80 miles an hour and killed herself. She went way over into a ditch, down into a ditch, and killed herself, going 80 miles an hour off of an off-ramp. Now, guess what, people? Is that what you want your son and daughter to do? You want them to go 80 miles per hour. That's pretty much what you're telling people when you say, oh, I'm just going to let them be whatever they want to be. Guess what? You better steer your sons and daughters the right way, because nobody's going to steer them the right way. They're going to steer them the wrong way, and they're going to fall into a trap. They're going to stumble and fall into a bad way of life. They're going to stumble into drugs. And guess what? They might go 80 miles per hour into drugs and kill herself the first time they do it. There was a girl a couple of years ago, you can look her up. She did the drug the first time and tore out her eyeballs. She's blind now. And she says she thanks God for it because she understands now more than she did then. But guess what? Could you imagine you didn't steer your daughter or your son towards God, towards a loving God. So they went towards a God that doesn't even care about them. They went towards a false God. And now they've tore their eyeballs out of their head because they did something stupid as do one drug, one time of sex, one time of robbing, one time of driving and texting, one time of not taking the proper precautions in life can cause you a lifetime of detriment. You can become paralyzed. You can become a vegetable. You can cause death to you or to whoever. One night or one day or one whatever of selfish foolishness will cause you so much detriment, and all because you denied the power of God. Just because you wanted to live your sinful life, you didn't care if your daughters or your sons lived a sinful life. You didn't care whether they had morals. You didn't care. You didn't care. You only cared till they got shot. Till they was out here, till your 13-year-old boy was out here playing with a gun and then running from a cop, and then he gets shot. Then you care. But there's no time for caring then, parent. There's no time then. Your son's gone. The 13 years of your life is now gone. 13 years that could have been great life. You steered him wrong. You steered him. You didn't believe in God. He might have rejected what you told him, but you didn't instruct him in the sense of whooping him. You know, there's a lot of people out here denying that power. You know, God wouldn't put it in the Bible if he didn't believe it worked. He said, those that deny the rod are wicked. Those that deny whooping their kids are wicked. For there is no love in them, because they wouldn't. Even God uses a rod on his children. He uses his rod on this whole world. He's using the rod right now on the whole world. Every time a hurricane comes up, wipes out 100 people, that's a rod, people, and you better take notice of it. It's like somebody that's whooping a grown man. Could you imagine if you sat there and watched a grown man being whooped, beat for hours on end, bloody? Him screaming bloody terror. I seen a lady the other day, she was getting attacked by a bobcat, screaming bloody murder. Them screams were so loud, if it couldn't penetrate your heart on how terrible of a pain she was in, or how scared and how everything else, you have no understanding. You're oblivious to everything. You'd have to be. But that is what God is doing. He's using a rod. Look at what he's doing. He's killing. He isn't killing, but the plague that's on this world because they denied his power is on this world because the world is denying God's power. And that's why millions and millions of people are suffering now with this COVID-19. Because the power of God is being denied, not only in the U.S., even though the U.S. is projecting denying his power throughout this world now. The book of the Bible used to be on everybody's dresser and everybody's house. Now it's in a drawer on the bottom shelf, tucked away in a cupboard somewhere. You know, the Bible used to be laying out, when you go to a hotel room, it'd be laying out there right on top of the table. Now they put it in the drawer, and it's in the bottom drawer on the very bottom. I mean, do you understand that this world is denying God's power, and you see the plague that's going on in a world that denies the power of God? And people are wondering why this rod is coming down so hard. Because you have taken away all the faith that you could have gave, that you could have. You know how many young people are going to die in this world because the faith and the power that we as parents, we as a culture have not given them. And you see his power working because we had so many in this world for so long denying the power of God. We just had Prince Phillips go to his grave this Sunday. I think I'm guessing today. And you know, his main thing was to say, do not have a preacher or a pastor or anybody there. That is showing you how much this man denied the power of God. That he didn't even want anybody to hear anything about Jesus or God or anything in their life. So he just denies even having that there at his funeral. That is what we've been living with, people. We're living with, if you're not living for God, you don't have the Spirit of God, so you're living for another spirit is in you. And it's just like Jesus said, you come from the father of devils. Satan is where these people come from. And then we respect these people. There is nothing to respect a person that's lived his whole entire life in such a fashion as Prince Phillips and then die and go to hell. What is so good about that life? Just like God said, you can have all the things in this life. All the things, you can have them. Go out there and get them. But he says, what's that profit of man that work all his life, have all this stuff built up, and then lose his soul in the end? These people, they do not believe in God. They don't believe in good. They're bitter towards God. They're bitter towards life. They're bitter towards the people that they're supposed to be serving. They see so much power of God and they deny it. Our president and vice president, even today, are denying the power of God. They are laughing and blaspheming God every single day they're walking. They don't see no holiness in what their life is about. They don't see no purpose. They just see how to get along and how to get the rest of the world to bow to this satanic system which the U.S. has begun. We are responsible for this satanic system that's being put out there to the world. We are making millions of people deny the power of God, and we stand at our pulpits every Sunday like nothing is going wrong. What is wrong with the church today? To see such blatant deniers of faith, deniers of what is true, and we have people sitting at our pulpits, and we are laughing with them. We are carrying on with them. There is nothing to laugh about, people. People are dying because Christ is not in their heart. And our churches are denying what they're doing. You say, what are they doing? Well, they're denying their responsibilities to a society. They're denying their moral responsibility to a society. God didn't say go to the church. He said the church goes to the people. That's what Jesus was showing people, that it's not about people coming to you. It's about you going to the people. You have to go to the people. But they've made it a business. I went to a church one time, they said it's a business here. It's a business. That's all it is to them, is business. No power there. It's dead. 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 There's no power there. The power is in the real searchers and the real believers that believe and understand God's full power and what His full power means to this world. It means everything. Without God's power, we have what we have now. I think y'all, I just want people to understand, these churches are not letting power, the free power of God, the free will power of God to go and meet the people where they are. They are allowing this satanic system just so they can make millions of dollars off of the tax exemption that they get. They're just trying to store up all the money. All these wicked churches they don't even want to pay. Christ paid the tax. He paid the tax. He might have got it out of a fish's mouth, and he told his disciple to go pay it. But you know what? But these churches deny that truth just for a tax exemption so they can make millions of dollars for themselves. They're just like the world. That's why it says they are preachers of the word, but deniers of the power within. They are preachers of the word, but deny the power, the full power of God. I hope that y'all would understand this message. I hope you would take this message to the world. I pray that y'all would understand that God wants you to just be fully aware of His power. He wants you to be fully aware of who He is. And I would hope that you would take some of these words with you today. I thank you again for joining this podcast, Proud of It podcast. And I hope you would be proud of this message to take it to those you know, share it with those you know. And thank you again. Y'all have a good day.